Hello, welcome to the Self Learning Platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we start Unit 3 Salient Features of Modern Indian Political Thought. And lecture starts with the trajectory of Muslim thoughts. We have traced the broad contours of 19th and 20th century thought as it emerged from within Hindu society. The history of Muslim society in India is still steeped in a sea of ignorance and misconceptions, and a lot more work needs to be done to unearth the different kinds of trends of thought that emerged from within it. We will sketch a broad outline of this below, but let it be stated at the outset that the situation is no less complex and variegated, and the common myth of a monolithic Muslim society is as ill founded as that of any other community. There are a range of responses to the changing world that we contour here too. A case in point, for instance, is the role of the ulema, that is, religious scholars of Ferengi Mahal, brought out by the pioneering research of Francis Robinson in the mid 1970s. Robinson noted that this tendency, so active in the second decade of the 20th century, had been consigned to silence, buried under the narratives of both the Indian and the Pakistani nationalisms. He pointed out the crucial role played by Maulana Abd al-Bari of Firangi Mahal in the pan-Islamic protest. Particularly the Khilafat movement, and in the foundation of the Jamaat-e-Ulema ul Hind, which worked for the most part in close cooperation with the Indian National Congress and remained opposed to the Muslim League demand for a separate homeland. With regard to Muslim society in India, we might need to steer clear of two diametrically opposed viewpoints. One represented by Hindu nationalists, which sees Muslim as an alien body continuously at odds with and insulted from local society and culture, and the other represented by the secular nationalists who see merely a syncretic culture that expressed the combined elements of Islamic and Hindu culture. We need to see the process by which what was once an elite Perso-Islamic culture of the Ashrafs, the gentry or nobility, gradually enters into a dialogue with the local traditions of learning of the arts and music, etc. This is a process that spans centuries, and there are contradictory pulls and trends that are at work throughout. To take just one instance, as Robinson observes, most 18th century Sufis believed in the doctrine of Wahadat al-Wujud, the unity of being, which saw all creation as manifestation of a single being, and thus made it possible for them to search for a common ground with the Hindus. But his teaching of the 13th century Spanish mystic Ibn al-Arabi was also challenged by the Naqshbandi order, which insisted on the more sectarian doctrine of Wahadat al-Shuhud, or the unity of experience, which insisted on the formal teachings of the scriptures as they encapsulated God's revelation. This tendency, however, remained far less popular for a long time. However, we cannot dwell on this prehistory of modern Muslim thoughts in this unit at any length, but it should nevertheless be kept in mind as a background. The next point is the specificity of Muslim history and thought. The advent of British rule meant a more immediate loss of political power for the ruling Muslim elite, especially in North India and Bengal. And this contest with British power continued through the century, from the Battle of Plassey 1757 to the Great Revolt, the so-called Mutiny of 1857, which saw a massive participation of Muslims as a whole and not merely of the elite. As a consequence, in the immediate period of following the institution of the power of British, the relationship between the erstwhile ruling elite and the colonial rulers came to be marked by deep hostility and antagonism. One of the consequences of this hostility was a certain inwardness that came to define Muslim attitude towards the modern. By and large, they seem to stay away from English education and ideas and institutions associated with British power. This, as you can see, is a sharp contrast with the attitude of the early Hindu intelligentsia, which embraced the new ideas and institutions with considerably less difficulty. One instance of this complexity can be seen in the instance of Delhi College, established in 1825, which began to impart both Oriental and Western education together in same institution. In 1827, it began the teaching of English. However, after the revolt of 1857, Western education was discontinued and could only be restarted in 1864. Nevertheless, the fact is that such an institution was established indicates a certain openness toward Western knowledge, despite the overall experience of hostility vis-a-vis the British. Mujib Ashraf, in fact, claims that Delhi College became one of the models for institutions like Jamia Millia Islamia in the later period. Delhi College produced important 19th century reformers and writers like Jakullah, Muhammad Hussain Azad, and Nazir Ahmad Nazir. The next point is the reform initiative. The crucial turning point in this respect, however, is the emergence of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, 1817 to 99, who is known to be the harbinger of liberalism and modernity in Muslim society. He opposed the Great Revolt as he believed that not only had British rule come to stay, but also that there was much to be gained by imbibing modern ideas from its context. It is well known that in order to propagate modern scientific knowledge, he established his Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, which in due course became the Aligarh Muslim University. In 1870, after his return from a trip to England, he began publishing his Urdu journal, Tehzeeb-ul-Ilhaq, which exhorted Muslims to reform their religious ideas. Sir Sayyid's basic intellectual move was to argue that the Islam was not incompatible with modern ideas and values. For this reason, though he was not a religious scholar by training, his insistence on reform took recourse to a well-established method of ijtihad that calls for the use of independent reasoning in order to keep up with changing times. Theologically, therefore, he took it upon himself to distinguish the essence of Islam from the inessential parts, which he described as the social customs and practices that had attached to it and which he argued had lost relevance in the modern world. Among these, for instance, was the Islamic prohibition on charging interest. In doing so, he began to insist on the Quran as the sole legitimate source of Islam. Alongside the Quran, he proclaimed the importance of reason and nature. In his attempt to combat the overgrowth of superstitions and unreasonableness that was attached to the religion over the centuries. It was a move, you can see, that was clearly parallel to the kind of move made by the Hindu reformers discussed above in relation to their own society. There was undoubtedly a large body of support for his project among the educated Muslims as he managed to raise enough money by contributions to set up the Aligarh College. Among the other important figures associated with Sayyid Ahmad Khan's reform moves were those of Sayyid Mahdi Ali, better known as Muhsin ul Mulk, and Maulana Shibli Namani. Muhsin ul Mulk differed from Sayyid Ahmad Khan insofar as he sought to win over the Muslim clergy to their side and therefore found it necessary to dialogue with them in terms of Islamic principles. Shibli Namami is considered along with poets of Altaf Hussain Ali and Muhammad Iqbal as one of the key literary figures of modern Muslim society in India. A founder of modern itinerary criticisms in the vernacular language, he also had a reputation as a great poet and historian of Islam. While Shibli supported the efforts of the Aligarh school, he was almost entirely rooted in the vernacular world and the world of Islam. His ambition was to reform Islam from within. According to Aisha Jalal, he is a more complex figure as he eludes classification either as a liberal modernizer or as an anti modern traditionalist. Despite his allegiance to the reformist program, he continued to work within the world of Islamic learning. In later years, he took on a different project, that of trying to bridge the gulf between the Aligarh modernizer and the traditionalist represented by the ulema of Deoband and Firangi Mahal. In his later years, he also became a critic of Sayyid Ahmad Khan, whom he held responsible for stunning the growth of political consciousness among the Muslims. Shibli was among those important voices who remained a strong critic of the Muslim League, which he saw as a forum of upper class, landlord elements of North India, and believed that the interest of the Muslims would be better served by overcoming its minority complex and making common cause with the Congress. Here we want to wind up this lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.